All right, so hello everyone. This is Monsef Afqer, and thank you so much for joining us in this new call of Your Divine Uniqueness. So yeah, this is the second call of the season, and also it will be video. So this season we'll have a few video calls. So not as usual, we mainly do audios. And yeah, I feel it will be very, very exciting. So yeah, thank you for your presence, whether live or if you will be watching or listening to the replay. So thank you for sharing with us your energy and co-creating with us this experience. And also, I'm very, very excited that Deanna Hansen is with us for the second time on the show. She joined us, I think, last year or maybe more than a year ago, and really loved the call we had with her. It was really fun, and also the interaction, like the feedback from you. Really loved like her message, and also the teaching and the products that she shares. So we talked about block therapy. So we'll be talking about that today also, and also we'll be discussing how to fill the gap between where we are now, like our present moment, and where we want to be, or our heart desires and goals. And this is very important because, like, throughout the course that we did on the show, many questions are about creating what we want, and also like embracing a new way of creations, like letting go of the old, maybe limiting ways based on fears and lack. It's more about now. It's about empowerment and being worthy, and also how the body, like our connection to the body, to our body, can really really plays very, very important role in how we create our life. So yeah, very excited about today's call, and I will be sharing with you a little bit about Deanna before I invite her. So Deanna Hansen is the founder of Fluid Isometrics and Block Therapy, a bodywork practice that is therapy, exercise, and meditation all in one. Deanna began her practice as an athletic therapist in 1995, always focusing on deep tissue work. And Deanna's work benefits people of all ages, as well as any condition, focusing on the fascia system. Her work teaches people to melt through adhesions and scar tissue, ultimately awakening cells previously blocked from blood and oxygen. From those with debilitating issues to the elite athlete, this work can be modified to address any situation. And also she has developed an online teacher training program, Block Therapy University, and there are currently 220 people globally, either certified or going through the process of certification. And yeah, so also I forgot to mention that we will have a Q&A later on the call. So for that, if you are on Zoom app, you can either type your questions on the chat box, or you can raise your hand. There is the button, the name is raise your hand. And if you are on the phone, let me check where, yeah, not yet, but if later someone is on the phone, normally it's *9 to raise their hand. And yeah, so with that, Deanna, welcome to the show. Very happy to have you with us.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here once again.
Wonderful. And yes, so I shared like about you from your bio, but I would love if you can maybe explain more about your work and like how it helps people who use that.
Yeah, so I started developing this about 22 years ago already. I was 30 years old, and I was coming out of a very challenging time in my own life. Having trained as an athletic therapist, I was very aware of what I was taught in how to work the body properly, how to have a fit body. But I also learned not so much a healthy body. I've really learned that fitness and health, they can go hand in hand, but you can be very fit and actually not healthy. So through my work, I recognized that the laws of weight loss, first of all, didn't apply to me, which was very frustrating because I was doing what I was taught to do. So that was one thing. And then to be working so hard at something and to be failing when it is apparent that other people are succeeding in it. It was very disempowering. And it created a lot of other struggles for me. Depression. My physical body was accumulating mass, and I was feeling very sluggish, very unhappy overall, because I just felt like I was out of control in my life. So at the age of 30, I made some big changes. And as a result of those changes, I started having some pretty severe anxiety attacks. And this one attack in particular was the seed of everything to come, because in that moment, I actually thought I was going to die. I couldn't catch my breath. For some reason, though, I dove my hand into my abdomen, and the very first thing I encountered was pain, but I let out this gasp, and connecting to the pain brought me to the ground. It made me realize, okay, I'm breathing, I'm alive, I'm going to live another day. But then I intuitively started exploring in that area with my hands. And up until that point, as an athletic therapist, I always focused on body work. So I was very aware of what scar tissue felt like in people's bodies, but I'd never worked on anyone else's abdomen, let alone my own. And as I'm moving my hands through this tissue, I recognized that it felt like it was marbled with scar tissue, even though I didn't have any injury or surgery in that area. And then suddenly I was having all these aha moments, like, no wonder when I'm coming home from a run, dripping wet with sweat, my belly still feels cold. So as I continued to explore here, I felt very calm. And I did that for maybe 30, 45 minutes. Woke up the next day a little tender from the work, but again, feeling calm and really excited about what I tapped into. So after working with patients all day, I went back home and I started doing the same exploration. And after the second night, when I stood up, I felt taller. And I went and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I immediately began to cry because my belly was flatter than it had looked in years. And this was a real source of angst for me. I was doing 400 sit-ups a day. Everything I do, I tend to take a little to the extreme. So I was doing everything that I possibly could, everything that I'd learned in athletic therapy to try to forcibly change my body. And it was changing, but it wasn't for the better. It was actually getting worse. So within 2 days, to have an actual positive change, something literally at my fingertips that I could do, I was very excited. So this became my new approach. Every day I would come home and I would explore in my body. And then after 2 weeks, my chronic low back pain was going away. And I started flipping my patients onto their backs because I said, you know what, I just want to try something with you, something that's really been helpful for me. So I do that. And I had just phenomenal benefits. And then I started attracting other therapists because they started hearing of my work and they wanted to learn. So I spent the first number of years focusing on patients and teaching other therapists the technique. But my real passion was to teach people to self-care. So about 10 years into this process, just another intuitive moment, I was guided. I would come home from work and I'd be working again with my hands all day on my patients and then on my own body with my hands. So, I was pretty physically tired. So once a week I was having these wonderful restorative yoga classes with a great teacher. And she had me in a side-lying twist over a bolster. And she cautioned me that this goes really deep, so be careful. And I'd already spent a decade with my hands deep in my own body. So I'm on this bolster in this twist and I can hardly feel anything. And years prior, I had started Iyengar yoga, and I had an old Iyengar yoga rectangular wooden block. And I said, I want to lie on that. She's like, oh, you're crazy. That's too deep. And I said, no, I want to do this. So as I'm lying on it, I'm thinking, I don't have to use my hands and my body. I can move my body into the block. Now, the challenge was the block was rectangular with sharp edges. So as much as I was able to move into it, it wasn't very long before I encountered pain. So then for the next 2 years, one of my instructors, or one of my therapists rather, who was also a woodworker, we played with the size and the shape until we got it to be the shape that the tool is today. So it's got really, really lovely rounded edges so that we can drive through the layers of fascia and melt through those adhesions that are holding us out of alignment to get actually right to the root of the issue, which is at the bone. So we need to go deep, but it needs to be soft and comfortable. So that was the process that began the beginning of block therapy. And that's how it started. And this is 22 years later since the beginning.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing about your story. And I really love because it was more like everything you created, it was intuitive. And many times also like we put limitations about what our body can handle or can achieve. And many times it comes from limiting beliefs. But when we, from what I understood, when we have allowed this communication, intuitive communication with our body, we really can reach things that's before, like you said, your teacher, she told you like it was very, it can go very deep, but still it works after that. So I would love if you can maybe talk about this communication with our body.
Oh, it's so lovely. So I'm all about creating space within, because the way I see it, gravity over time, it's this compressive force. So I always share that block therapy is really about fascia decompression, and there's more than one way to decompress fascia. Block therapy is a very simple approach to decompressing your fascia. Using the hands is how I started with this process. I call my technique fluid isometrics, where we're literally getting in through those layers of fascia. And the thing that's really interesting is everything in nature is derived from the Fibonacci sequence, the spiral pattern of everything in nature, the galaxies, the nautilus seashells, how our bodies develop, flowers, even how the body winds down and ages. It's all based on this patterning of numbers. So if we can really understand the patterns in nature, then we can really work to create positive changes. So for example, like if you're doing linear strokes on the surface, like a typical massage, or if you have one of those fascia rollers and you're rolling, you're basically improving the circulation on the surface layers. But the root of the problem is deep. It's at the bone. So to understand the Fibonacci sequence and how that creates everything that we have, as well as compresses us, when we're working in the body, if we go in through that pattern of numbers, which is basically following that spiral pattern, kind of like if you're opening a bottle of wine, you don't just push the cork straight through, you have to screw it in. And that's that spiral pattern in nature. So when we do that, what happens is I like to use the term unzip the seams of time, because there's a time-space continuum. As we go through time, we decrease in our internal space. So if we can put the space back into the body, we take the time out. And space is where God lives. I've learned that, I've read that, I've personally experienced. The more space we have, the more connected we are to the information that is stored in our cell membranes. And it was actually Greg Braden in his book, The God Code. I just loved it. And I'm not good with detail, but the basic premise of this is that on the surface layer of every cell membrane is the message, God lives within. So if we create the space around the cells, and then we can listen to what those cells are saying by ensuring that we have proper cell alignment, we're actually listening to more of that higher self of ours. And we get taken out of the ego, the patterning that we're living in, like everything is out here, and we start really tapping inside ourselves, which is really where the messages from God are. And then we can listen to that, and then we can hear more what we're supposed to bring forward to the world so that we can fulfill our purpose and leave this planet in a more positive place.
Yeah, I really love how you explain that. And because also like as you were sharing about that, I thought about how like sometimes when we create things in our life, we have a desire or something. Many times like our old traumas, maybe it's like they create some kind of block in how we create things. And like also like I don't remember if it was Greg Braden or maybe Neil McTaggart, she said about that our body, it's more about like a memory, and it stores our past traumas in it because it's made of water, and water is memory. And so what I understood is like using block therapy, it helps to remove those blocks and allow this life force energy to move through our body, and then it really can help us create more easily in our life.
And that's exactly it. The way I look at bodies is they're frozen. They're literally frozen. Most people are breathing through the muscles of the upper chest, where when we breathe diaphragmatically, it's like turning on the body's internal furnace. So I live in a 30-story building, and I have a 1-bedroom apartment. I literally basically have 2 rooms in my apartment. So if I have a space heater and it's winter here and it's in my bedroom, even my kitchen will be cold. But if you turn on the building's furnace, the entire building gets heated up. So the diaphragm is like the body's furnace. The muscles of the upper chest are like the space heater. And most people are breathing through here because pain, fear, and stress cause you to reactively hold the breath. And we are living in a world where pain, fear, and stress it's just being thrown at us 24/7. Like no matter what, people are pretty much stressed today. So it's become the fallout mechanism to breathe through the muscles of the upper chest. And we're simply surviving if we're breathing that way, because oxygen is the most important nutrient for our cells to thrive. And if we're breathing through the muscles of the upper chest, we're not bringing the air deeply enough into the lungs, where the majority of the oxygen receptor sites reside, which is at the base of the lungs, to create absorption, to fulfill the body's oxygen needs. As well, we're not exhaling effectively to move the waste out of the body. So our bodies are riddled with toxins. They are compressed, they're ballooned, they're becoming more toxic every moment, and we're being flooded with more toxins all the time as well. So we really need to learn how to activate the highest potential of this body that we've been given. And it's not hard, because that's how we're born to be driven, is breathing diaphragmatically. However, because we've lost that habit and we've allowed technology, negative posture, and stress to pretty much drive our lives, we've become this crumpled, compressed physical container that has all of these blockages in it. So whether it's the physical movement of stuff within the body, whether it's emotion that gets trapped, the emotion will trap us in specific patterns of thinking as well. It's all connected and it's all tied into the fascia system. So with block therapy, we're literally melting through those adhesions to allow the fascia to become more fluid, and also to realign the body so that we take away those 90-degree angles that can happen when we collapse in, and then like it's got to find a different route to get to and from cells. We want to be able to have a super easy fluid body that things flow in, so that if things do pummel us, the body says, okay, this isn't good, I'm going to expel you. And we expel through many ways, through going to the bathroom, through sweating, through exhaling. And I love this because it's centered around weight loss, but it really speaks to the detoxification process. In 2014, they did a study, and it's in the medical news. It's even a TED Talk, where they showed that 84% of weight loss comes through proper exhalation. And for me, back in my 20s, when I was doing what I was taught to do to lose weight, the rules of weight loss didn't apply to me. I was actually getting bigger. And what I recognized was I wasn't breathing. I was trapped in my old pattern of breath from fear and stress. And no matter how hard I was forcing my body and how much I was exercising or starving even, nothing was moving because I was frozen. So as soon as I started to engage that proper breath, that changed everything.
Absolutely. That's really amazing. And yeah, like you said, because we created habits, maybe negative habits in the past. And now, like you said, many times we forget to breathe properly, or sometimes even like we forget to take care of the body or communicate with the body, especially sometimes where we are into spirituality, we just stay there we try to connect more to the spiritual realm, but we forget the physical body, because this is the vessel, and without it, if it doesn't have the good energy, it will not allow this spiritual connection that we can have. And yeah, also a question is about those trapped emotions and traumas, because there are many modalities. Some, they need to know exactly what the trauma is and the emotion to heal it. But through your approach, do we need to know that, or is it more just releasing those blocks and allowing the energy to flow, and this will help to release those densities?
Yeah, it's really about allowing the energy to flow, and that's the lovely piece about it. It's non-judgmental. The old memories, the old trauma gets trapped in how we breathe. So, for example, if I see some violent act when I'm a child in front of me, I want to protect myself from that. And the way we protect ourselves is we pull in and we pull in and we contract. And then we start breathing up through here. So if we don't let that go, and if you watch an animal, a deer, for example, surviving an attack, they go and they shake it off. They shake all that negative energy out of their body, and then they're back to neutral. But we don't do that. We tend to get contracted, and then we stay there. And then from that point, that's how we breathe. And then we're magnetic beings. So if we're feeling fear, now we start attracting more opportunities to experience more fear. And then it just contracts and contracts and contracts. And the more contracted we are, the denser the body, the more gravity manipulates and continues to twist us out of alignment. And then again, there's more roadblocks that we have to deal with inside of ourselves. And then the cells become starved and dirty. So, now we're ripe for disease and all of this stuff. So as we start getting into the body and we release those patterns that the fascia developed from, and we connect more strongly to our full diaphragmatic breath, we simply start moving that energy out of the body through the breath, as well as all those other means of detoxification. So that's the lovely thing. What people often share on the block is, oh my gosh, I was doing this and I had a memory. Like if you're working on the knee, I had a memory of when I fell when I was 10 and I hurt my knee. Like these memories surface and they're gone. And it's lovely because again, it is so non-judgmental. And I'm actually going to be hosting a trauma summit in the fall. And I have a number of beautiful, incredible speakers that are going to be sharing. And I actually did my first interview last night with the first one. And it was so lovely because I actually worked personally with her as well for over a year. And that's just the thing. We don't have to know, and we don't have to go in and talk about over and over about what happened. We simply have to find the way to let it out because it already happened. We just continue to keep living it if we're stuck in those patterns and cycles. It's not here now. So just let it out. And that's the beauty of this work is it really does provide that opportunity for the body to simply let go.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And also, I would love if you can maybe tell us more examples about your clients, like when they come to you, like, is it more just about feeling like more at ease with their body, or like the block therapy can be used to reach some goals, or maybe if like create a new way of living? I would love if you can tell us about that.
And that's such a beautiful part of this whole thing. I have a lovely, lovely Facebook community. We've got well over 7,000 community members now. So it's really amazing because when you're dealing with the fascia system, because fascia, and again, this is my personal perspective on the fascia, but it's basically the cell membrane of every other cell membrane interconnected together. And then it's the space between the cells that, is really the fascia container supporting our structure. So whether you're talking about issues with your size and shape, trauma, chronic pain, disease, all of it, varicose vein, cellulite, like you can go from I don't like to use the word vanity because it's more than that, but like you can go from the anti-aging, like all of these things. It's really about making sure that your fascia system is supported and protected, because if it is, then your cells are going to be consistently fed properly and cleaned properly. And as long as a cell is fed and clean, it's going to do its job. It's not going to scream at you. It's not going to be sending you pain signals or anxiety signals, and your body's going to work efficiently. And the goal is that we almost like glide through life, where again, when we allow the lack of breath to make us very heavy and dense, it's like maybe 10 or 20% of your cells are working on your behalf. And then we're slugging around these dense, heavy bodies. And we have all this potential to thrive. But again, we're so lacking in oxygen that we're literally only surviving because the body's brilliant, of course. It's going to survive. So if we're not getting everything that we want, the body knows how to send the right nutrients that we have to what will keep us alive. But when you're looking at thriving, that baby toe is equally important as the heart cell. Everything is equal in importance when you're wanting to thrive, because the body works together as a finely tuned, phenomenal machine to house our soul. It becomes a very different container when we don't look after our fascia and really pay attention to our breath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And as you are talking about breath and like breathing properly. Like, how did you work with your clients who, in the beginning, they were excited about this, maybe creating new habits and following it for some time, but with time they get back slowly and unconsciously to the old habits. So what will be your advice for someone who wants to create new healthy habits after a long time of maybe not breathing consciously, or maybe having unconscious behavior? So what will be your
Well,
advice?
and that's everyone, me included, but that's the beauty, that's the beauty of this practice. So when people dive into my program, and I actually, we have a free gift that we're sharing, so people can certainly experience it using a rolled up towel. But whenever we start in our starter program in block therapy, I always start in the ribs. So I just want to share a little, I'm just going to bring this a little bit lower so you can see. So we've got the diaphragm muscle right here. And when we inhale, the diaphragm moves down. When we exhale, it moves up. It moves up and down like a pump. When we are incorrectly aligned, the diaphragm literally folds over onto itself. So it becomes essentially frozen, like a frozen shoulder. So when we work first in the rib cage and the core with the block, we spend a minimum of 3 minutes in each position, because the goal here is to melt through adhesions. And the act of doing that, combined with the training that we give about strengthening proper diaphragmatic breathing, so many people after the first class already experience a shift and a change in their body. So the process that we've put together creates that shift and change. And then we make it really, really simple to follow. You can do it on a bed, you can do it on the floor. So through the process of releasing the adhesions, focusing on the breath, and then integrating proper postural foundations, which we've laid out very simply, you keep moving forward. So you don't go back. If the block sits on your shelf and you never use it, of course, then people aren't going to get the benefit. But it's a very simple practice with very profound benefits.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing about that. And can we start taking also questions from the audience?
I'd love to.
Okay, so yeah, so everyone, again, if you are on Zoom app, you can raise your hand by clicking on the raise hand button, or you can type your question on the chat box. And if you are watching on the webcast page, yourdivineuniqueness.com/live, there is also a question box there where you can type your question. And so we have Caroline. Can you unmute yourself?
Hi, beautiful soul.
Hi.
Hi, Montef. Hi.
Hi.
Nice to see you. Haven't seen you in a long, long time. Hello, Deanna.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. And
Great.
I agree with everything that you say. Yeah. So I'm here with two simple questions for myself. I'm almost 60 years old and I've been menopausal for 8 years. Now, there's a whole, lieu of stories of, childhood abuse and all that's good stuff, right? But would your program help with menopausal symptoms, hot flashes, and not like you, but similar to you? I cannot take any more than 600-800 calories a day, or else I'm gaining weight. So the only thing that will keep my weight down is juicing, pretty much. As soon as I put a little bit of food in there, I gain a lot of weight. So that's one of my questions.
And yes, so at 53, I'm just venturing in this last, number of months into that same situation. And absolutely, we have many in our community that have shared that it's really helped to manage the symptoms, the hot flashes, all of those things. Regarding the weight loss, I just want to get a little more specific about why this is so impactful. So when we compress, when we are not strengthening the diaphragm through conscious breathing, and we haven't been taught to. That's the thing. Like, nobody's really taught us how to breathe properly. So when you start engaging this muscle, so many things happen. The first thing that happens is, again, that now we've got this pump here. So we've got the stomach organ, the liver, the pancreas, the gallbladder, like all of the organs through here. When we're breathing properly, these organs are getting a continual internal massage. When we breathe up through here, this muscle becomes weak. the weight of the rib cage, the head, the arms collapses into the core, and it causes the contents of the belly to extend. So I always say it's not about weight loss as much as it's about size loss, space gain. By putting the space back into the body, we help to realign the body, and then the cells are positioned where they should be. And then we also have that ability to detox so much more effectively. So when I was the 50 pounds overweight and working so hard and sweating and hardly eating, it didn't matter what I did. My body would not let go of what was of that which was being stored inside. As soon as I started heating my body properly and working it properly and exhaling all of those toxins out, change happened very quickly. Plus, as you start strengthening the diaphragm, we're literally lifting the rib cage up and out of the core. So there's compression and ballooning and toxification. So this process is decompressive and detoxifying. So you lift your body up to bring it back to its tallest version of itself and most aligned version. And then things flow you through so much more efficiently. That's the beauty of this. You'll see those changes because of that. And I am more than happy if you want to send me a personal email to give you the guidance that you need along the way.
Absolutely, I will do so. Thank you so much. Yes. I was guided to come to this show today. The first thing in the morning, I heard Monsef's voice, and I woke up and I go, Monsef, why are you talking to me? So that's why. My other question, and it's concerning my husband. So someone who he had a disc removed and lower back in his early 20s. He has Crohn's disease. He recently had a hip surgery replacement in March, and he's getting a second hip replacement. So his back has been misaligned like for a long time. So I think he needs your help as well. But since it's been so long, would you be able to help, or would this program help?
So my analogy for that, and I love this one because it just makes so much sense. If you had an ice cube in your deep freeze for 30 years or since yesterday, when you take it out, it doesn't matter how old it is, it's going to melt. So the key when we're dealing with long-term injury is to really look at the body and assess the cause sites, because his pain issue site is in his back, but that's not the area that's causing the problem. His lower legs and feet are going to be huge causes. So because our system addresses the full body, we get to those cause sites. Just an example, like if you took my arm right now and you turned it and you held it like this for a month, this is going to be very, very tired and sore. So if you go for a treatment and you get a massage there, it might feel good for a minute, but it's not long before, okay, that tension and pain comes back. You let go of the arm, everything comes back, and now you can actually heal properly. So that's the key with the fascia system, because the further away from the diaphragm, so the forearms and hands, the calves and the feet, that's where the fascia is the most frozen on the bone, holding us in our negative pattern. So if we're just working on the areas in the core that need that work and we don't address what's going on in the limbs, as soon as you start walking, you're going to get pulled back into that negative fascia pattern. So that's the key. It's to be able to really assess where those cause sites are. And that's what we do. I've got two amazing therapists who also I've trained to do assessments, so we can really hold people's hands in the beginning when we're dealing with some pretty significant, severe stuff. But for the most part, my Facebook community, I've got also two instructors manning my Facebook community, and they're there to always give support and guidance through my membership. So he may not even need anything other than to just simply follow the process, because it's just the way that it's laid out. We make sure that we cover everything that we need to do.
Yeah, he's suffered for so long. And then the back stuff gets, what's that leg syndrome that he can't stop shaking?
The restless leg syndrome.
Yes,
yeah, that's no
yes,
fun.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's because those cells are, like restless leg syndrome is that I used to suffer. And I always used to say, I have anxiety. What I've come to learn is I didn't have anxiety. My cells were anxious because I'm asking them to do a job, yet I'm starving them, dehydrating them, they're exhausted, and I'm still expecting them to work on my behalf. And it's like, we have to understand what these little guys are doing for us. We have trillions of them. And I love directing people to a video called The Life of a Self by David Belinsky. It's a 3-minute video. He did a longer TED talk on this, but it honestly brings me to tears when you see the synchronous movements and the interplay of all the things inside of every one of our cells. It is just, it's like watching, the synchronicity on the planet, like everything's a mirror of itself. So inside every little cell, it's like a universe of activity, and those cells need space. So if we're compressed and we're not breathing and we're squishing those cells, I like to use an example. Like if you're in an elevator and like suddenly you're crowded in the elevator, somebody's wearing really strong perfume, somebody's got some horrible music playing, and you're just crunched in the back. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, let me out of here. And that's what your cells are doing when we're compressed and when we're not giving them what they need. So the body sends signals. So pain, anxiety, any negative feeling is really your cell saying, hey, mom or dad, like, please pay attention. You're asking me to make you healthy, but you're not giving me what I need to be healthy and to do my job. So when you can kind of reframe it, it's not, I have anxiety, it's my cells are anxious. And then that seems like a much better message to say, okay, well, my cells are anxious. Now I have an approach to deal with that and to support them.
I love you, Deanna. Yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying. I have a few gifts myself, shaman, intuitive, and all that. And I'm literally right in the middle of recording. I can't say too much. I guess it doesn't matter. Sorry, Mansef, if I'm saying too much. Just a program, because my gift is my voice. I do toning. So Spirit has guided me, and I'm all the way down in the telomeres, and I'm doing every organ, and it's so beautiful, so beautiful. Everything you're saying, I'm just like sucking it through a straw. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
I'll definitely get in touch. Yes. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mansef. Yeah.
I look forward to continuing the conversation, Caroline.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Caroline. Yeah, that was really wonderful. And so also you shared earlier just a little bit about the free gift. It's block therapy. It's a sampler program, right? So yes. So for that, everyone, you can find the link on the webcast page. There is a button named free gift. And also later when it will be on the replay page, we'll find a button there. So so Deanna, I would love if you can tell us about this program.
The free gift, yes.
Yeah,
so
gift, yeah.
So again, it's all about fascia decompression. So in block therapy, we use the tool, the block. However, a rolled up towel, and we show you how to roll it up so it's nice and dense, is really, really effective. So this free gift has 9 videos working through the whole body, giving you quite a good understanding of fascia decompression and also alignment training. And it's really lovely because we have so many fantastic testimonials on our Google reviews and in our community from the sampler program alone. So you can dive in, and if that's all you do, you're going to start to see changes, because the very first class, we focus on the lower ribs and the belly to really engage your breath. And when you start understanding how to breathe diaphragmatically, you become a more efficient healing machine within yourself. So if all you learn to do is breathe diaphragmatically and open up that rib cage, that alone is going to make some major changes. But we do work the full body in this mini series, and it gives you a really, really good understanding of what block therapy is about. And then if you want to dive into the starter program, that's something you can certainly do along the way as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Deanna. And also we have the starter program. So for that, everyone, there is below the free gifts button, there is it's called special offer button on the webcast page, and also later it will be available on the replay. Would you like to share something about the starter program?
Yes. So, and I do highly recommend you get both sizes of tools. We do have an option to get just the block buddy. If price is a factor, if you're over 5 feet, you want the larger tool. If you're under 5 feet, you want the smaller tool. Both tools are amazing though, because there's certain parts of the body, like for example, we do a lot in the waist area through the sides. The larger one for some people can get a little more intense, a little too deep. Again, you can do things on a bed, and we talk to you about ways of like using the tool if it's too intense, and your breath is always your guide. That's basically the rule that we have in block therapy. As long as you're breathing in a relaxed way, you will be feeding and healing your tissue. If something hurts so much, it takes that relaxed breath away. That's your body saying you need to back off and you need to do it less intensely. So we give you options. But so we have 9 classes in the starter program, and we always start first in the rib cage. Then we go to the foundation, pelvis, legs, and feet. And then we go up to the head, neck, and arms. And we have 3 25-minute classes, 3 45-minute classes, and 3 90-minute classes. There's also some additional videos in there, because once you really understand how easy and simple it is to block, you can, as I'm sitting here, I can have this little block baby right underneath my hamstring and get work done while I'm doing other things. So I have a video in there called Blocking Around the House, just so that you, if you're watching TV, if you're reading a book, if you're lying in bed, you can still be blocking, because it doesn't really take any additional energy. So you can still get those benefits. Then once you're through that, we have a 2-week free trial to the membership. And that's really where there's so much incredible value. I've got all of these guided programs combining blocking with alignment training. So we literally are taking steps. We release an old pattern and we bring in a new one. We release, we bring in a new one. So we go through these steps to ensure that the full body is understood, and we're not just releasing the old pattern, because if I go right back into that negative slumped posture, then I'm going to pull myself back down. I want to release and integrate. So I continue to rebuild. And the foundations are key. The lower body foundation we refer to as rooting. We're like a building. So when you look at how most people stand, they're not standing correctly. Now, in my 30-story building, if there's an earthquake and the foundation ends up becoming weak, the entire building is going to shift, and that's going to affect every single floor all the way to the top. So our foundation is incredibly important to understand how to keep the rest of our body properly aligned. And then the second foundation is the diaphragm, making sure that the base of the rib cage is properly supported with proper strengthening of that diaphragm muscle. And then the tongue muscle. We spend a lot of time educating about the tongue. And I was so excited because one of my community members just a couple of weeks ago, I just wrote a blog about this, which will be coming out sometime in August. It was fascinating because she was sharing how before we had processed food and the conveniences and the comforts of life, when, people were, eating raw meat and really fibrous food, they had a different use of their tongue to break down the food. And I'm always sharing that the tongue should be at the roof of the mouth, about a pinky nail distance from the teeth. You'll notice there's a ridge, and the tongue docks perfectly into that ridge. So the surface of the tongue should be pushed up against the roof of the mouth. When I'm not conscious of my tongue, it will shoot forward and to the right, and then I'll end up clenching more on the left. So I've had to learn to pull my tongue back up into proper alignment. And because we're all pulled forward, the tongue is pulled forward, the jaw is pulled forward, the head is pulled forward. So understanding how to strengthen this phenomenal muscle to help support the weight of the head and to keep the vertebrae in the neck spacious, so that we don't go through that grinding and wearing and inflammation and potential arthritis. That again, changes everything. So in this video, they were sharing how in ancient times, before conveniences of life, people didn't have tooth decay. They didn't have crooked teeth. They had a strong tongue supported at the roof of the mouth, where today, that's not the case. I have a 21-day head, neck, and face program, and I was so very excited because we did a challenge. We called it a facelift challenge. There's so many benefits, but this is something you can really see. And what was most exciting for me, the 3 top winners, and you can see it on in my blog, we listed it. It was only, I think back in May that we listed the winners. The entire shape of their head changed. And what is really important to understand is we've got this brain inside here. So when you look at somebody when they age, typically what happens is the face gets narrower and squished and everything becomes a little more pointed. We want to have breadth, because that's how we make sure that there's enough space for blood to reach the brain. We want every cell in the brain functioning. And if this is our posture our whole life, then we start getting compressed. That's why we start losing hair. It's why our eyes start to not function the same way, why our skin starts to hang. So what was so neat was seeing the shape of these heads, like their jaws became nice and angular. They had symmetry. Their eyes looked like they were balanced and equal. And And that was 21 days. And so you can see the results. I mean, they're right there. And what was really cool in this video that I was sent, they said that there are techniques out there to change that, but it can be minor and it can take years. And it's like, wow, in 21 days, this is what we did with block therapy. So if that's something you're interested in, I mean, like, you know, the side effect is the facelift, but I mean, you're going to be feeding your eyes better, your brain better, your skin better, like everything. It's going to just function on a whole different level. And then really what it comes down to, I think, in the highest sense of this whole thing from the physical body part, is making sure that the heart and the brain are in sync. If our heart is shut, the ego wins, and we want our actions to be a manifestation of our heart's highest path. And we want the brain to follow what that is. And that's really a function of making sure all of the cells in the body are properly fed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wonderful. That's really, really impressive. Like the results that's you've been seeing. And I have a question is that's like when following like a certain program, like 21 days, after that, do they need to follow up, like to keep maybe parts of that program, or keep doing it, or is it okay to move to something else? So how does it work to keep results like for the long term?
So, I mean, it's a lifestyle. And I think most blockers in my community recognize that, you know, this isn't something that they want to let go. And the nice thing about it too, is it's easy. It's not like you're sweating even, right? So like you're on the block, you're doing the work. So it's an easy thing to do. You can do it in bed. You can do it on the floor. I even have chair classes. So it's a very simple practice to follow. But what's really neat about it is as your breath becomes stronger and your alignment becomes more improved, it's not like you're falling back into those old patterns and habits. Now, if you do, you know, block for 1 month and you put it aside and you never do it again, yeah, you're going to be falling back into those old patterns. But again, that's not the way that most people approach this. Typically people come in for a specific reason, whether it's chronic pain, whether they want to, you know, have a smaller waist, like whatever the reason is. But then as they start doing it, then you start noticing all of these other changes, and they're continual. I'm 22 years into this journey. And I mean, I've changed immensely since my 20s, but I still have such a long way to go. And that's what I love the most. We never get to this end point where there's perfection. I mean, what fun would that be? It's, you know, we learn through struggle, and we create through struggle, and all of those things. So I don't think that we'll ever be at a point on this planet when there's not struggle, because that's what creates the resilience and the perseverance to keep inventing new wonderful things. And I think, you know, we're at this beautiful time in human history where we're in absolute chaos, but out of the chaos comes phenomenal opportunity to see a different path in a different way. And that's the point, as we talked about in the beginning, the limiting beliefs. Everything has been kind of like, you know, there's upheaval everywhere, but that's the best possible time to really move inside yourself and to really like listen to God. If that's what you're all about. And I think we're all about that, whether we know it or not. I mean, God placed us here to live our purpose, and we can choose to take the opportunities and figure out what that is. And I do believe that when we do truly live our best life possible, inside and out. And yeah, that's what I'm here to share.
Yeah, I really love that message, because like you said, in those times that sometimes they can be challenging, it's like they share with us some messages that we need to look here or look into that thing, and there is inspiration that comes. And it's like also like in the beginning when you were working with yourself, you got this intuitive messages, and that's led you to create block therapy. So it's like this duality that we live in life. It's just part of that the human experience, and it's more about just navigating it. And like we are like growing constantly, but it's like this. It's not like that.
And that's what I say about healing all the time. It's if we want to go in this direction, but it's not a straight line. So like on those downturns, they're not negative. It's just part of the cycle. And yeah, when we can really understand that, and also to understand, as you were mentioning, like pain isn't something that we'll ever be out of, because we're in a duality. Pain and pleasure are two sides of the same coin. And it's simply the baby crying. Pain is your cell giving you a little bit of an insight, like, and if you catch it right away, and that's the cool part too with block therapy, when you really understand how to navigate pain, and we teach people to become pain seekers, like find your pain on purpose, because pain plays hide and seek. And if we let it, then it grows and grows and grows, and we're not even really aware of it, if we're ignoring it or if we're masking it. And then it can become a problem where if we're awake to the fact that, oh, pain is simply the baby crying, you're not going to ignore your baby crying. You're going to give it whatever it needs at the time. And the cells are the same thing. So if I got a little pain shot in my knee, it's like, oh, my mechanics aren't correct. I'm going for this long walk and I've got a sore knee now. I need to shift something or correct something. And so you start to really understand that that's all that it is. It's just your cells giving you information that they need a little bit of attention. And again, I think it's really important how we phrase things, because again, we like to own our issues. Like, I have anxiety. Like, oh my gosh, I have anxiety. It's like, no, I don't have anxiety. My cells are anxious because I haven't done the right thing for my body. So again, like that message, again, it feels so different too. It's like, okay, so I mean, do what you need to do for your body then. And
Yeah.
they won't be anxious anymore.
Yeah, I love that. So now it's more because we have the understanding. It's because in the past it was more like I feel anxious or I feel sad, but I don't know why. And we just stay in that stage of being for a long time. But when we have the awareness of what is happening, when we understand it makes it much more easier to really shift the perspective first, have the awareness, and then from that place we can, if we are inspired or we know like some action that we can take and that can help us, then we can move through that direction. And awareness is very important. Yeah.
Yeah, especially when we don't understand why. Like, I think it's really interesting too. Like, some people will like, my gosh, I've just been so angry lately. If you've been angry lately and you're trying to create some rational reason and there's no specific trigger to make you angry, yet you're angry, it's your cells. Your cells are speaking to you. It's not the event of a moment. It's, again, like, as you mentioned, the water stores memory, and I mean, the liver stores anger. Like, there's a lot of reasons as well for us to be angry, but again, there's so many incredible reasons for us to feel so incredibly blessed to be here right now as well. And it's just all the lens that you look through and where you want to place your attention. So when we can actually have, and that's the lovely thing too. It's not about, okay, I've got this problem and I need to be better today. For me, I mean, because I've been dealing with so many issues and so many problems in my body, I just want to know I'm on the right path. I don't need to feel like I'm cured or healed. I just need to know that I'm taking the steps in the right direction to continually get there. And then it becomes exciting. Now it's a fun journey that I'm on, as opposed to, okay, am I ever going to feel better again? It's like, I don't have to feel great. I just have to know that I feel better than yesterday, or at least that I understand more about what's going on than yesterday. Because some days, as you said, like, sometimes you might be in that down part when your body's pushing out the stuff. And then those are those moments when we might not feel so good. So that's typical, like, oh, I've been blocking and I've been feeling great. And then suddenly, boom, something happened. It's like, well, what's happened is your body finally has enough energy to push out the old, the negative, and that's a process. So you might have a fever, you might have cold-like symptoms, your body might have a rash, change of pain, it might be emotional, you might be having weird dreams, like all those old things surfacing, but they're coming up to your consciousness so that you can say, thank you, goodbye, I don't need you anymore. And then we go deeper and we disrupt, it comes out, and then we feel clean and we feel great, and then we go deeper again. So it's this constant cleaning out of the closet. And the deeper we go, the cleaner we become, and the more we connect to our higher self, and the more creative gifts we can bring forth to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I really love that, because sometimes some experiences that feels uncomfortable is just like you said, it's the way the body releases those energies. And for example, like when we experience a loss, sometimes it can be expressed as like crying, like tears, and this is how the body releases that. And it's necessary to go through that process, otherwise we keep we keep those emotions or that grief within our body, and it creates blockage. But when we allow ourselves just to go through those experiences without judgment, without saying it's bad or negative, it's more just, it's an experience that we need to go through.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, it was really, really amazing talking to you, having you on the show, Deanna, and learning from you, learning more about block therapy and all the support that you brought to so many people. So thank you so much for joining us again today, for sharing with us your message and also your teaching and approach. So very grateful to you for that.
Oh, thank you so much, Mansaf. It's been an absolute pleasure. I would love to come back and continue. And thank you all for listening.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you very much, Diana. And also thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today live or for watching or listening to the replay. And again, you can find the links, it's 2 buttons on the webcast page or later on the replay page. There is the free gifts. It will guide you to the block therapy. Is it sampler program, and then the special offer button, it will lead you to block therapy a starter program. Yes. So yeah, so again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today.